ghouls and gals, and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Hillary, and if you are a returning subscriber, then you must be a crazy hilly, so welcome back. Tonight we are going to be covering the true story of Veronica. This is creepy movie that I watched a little bit ago. It's completely in Spanish, but it has a true story behind it, so I figured I'd just give you guys the deets on the true story. And without further ado, let's get right on into it, because I don't really have anything else to say. Veronica is a 2017 movie that is completely in Spanish, that is based on a girl that uses a Ouija board and gets possessed. Although in the movie her name is Veronica, her real name is Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro. I hope that I pronounced that right. Estefania was a 15-year-old who lived in southern Madrid, and a lot of people say that she dabbled in the occult, but her family says it was no more than, you know, the normal average everyday teenager. I know when I was a teen, I broke out the Ouija board a couple times, and I'm sure that that's exactly what she was doing. They were trying to contact people that they knew that had passed on. I don't know if I really call that dabbling in the occult. When I think of like dabbling in the occult, I literally think of Satanism, but I guess to each their own. In 1990, Estefania brought a Ouija board to school, which forever changed her life. Her parents claim that she brought this Ouija board to school and her friends were trying to contact one of her friend's ex-boyfriends who had passed away in a motorcycle accident. So they were down trying to contact him, and then sometime during the seance, a nun from their school was said to have damaged the board, and a lot of her friends say that there was some smoke after the board was damaged that they saw go into her nose and eventually into her lungs, and that's kind of like how they think that she began to get possessed by a spirit or a demon. Estefania's parents claim that after this seance she started to hallucinate and go into full-on seizures. She would claim that there were dark figures in her house and she could see them walking around at night, and then after that her fits became manic. She would scream at her siblings, and she kind of just went from a normal girl to a little bit crazy. And then her parents obviously took her to the doctor because they're like, what's wrong with you? But no doctor reported any mental problem or any sort of medical reason as to why she was having these attacks. In the movie Veronica, and what actually happened was kind of completely different. I know in the movie she gets possessed and like they call the cops and the cops go there and everyone kind of witnesses her and she ends up passing away. But in real life, her parents didn't actually contact the police until after she had already passed. So they weren't in the house witnessing her possession. They had come and investigated after her possession had already taken her life. After her passing in 1991, when the police actually went to her house to investigate, when her family calls and said that there's spirits coming, they go in and they hear noises coming from an area where there is nobody, and apparently they see an armoire and its door opens on its own in a very unnatural way. They also said that there was a cross that had moved on its own or somehow was in one place and it wasn't in the other. So even the police saw something go on. It's not just her family, it's cops, which for the most part I don't know why a cop would be like, yeah, I seen it. I seen the armoire open. Estefania's life ended in August 1991, and she died in the hospital after 6 months of going through a possession, whereas in Veronica it happened in 3 days and she died at home. In real life, she did die in the hospital, but it was 6 months of having these seizures, these fits, seeing these spirits in her house, hearing these noises all around. So I don't, like, that's torturous to me, just seeing things in your house. Her parents even said that they believed that her death had something to do with supernatural. They didn't explicitly say that she was haunted by a demon or she was possessed, but they thought that something supernatural happened to their daughter and they could not explain why all these things took place. After their daughter passed, it said for even a full year after her passing, her family was tormented by these spirits. They would see these dark figures traipsing in and out of their room, and their appliances would malfunction, things would get thrown off the walls, doors would be open and shut. So they had to live with this well after their daughter had passed away. Members of her family even said that they would hear someone whispering to them while they slept, and at times they would even hear their daughter screaming. And not like a sister, their daughter who passed away. They specifically heard her scream in the middle of the night, even though she was long since passed. And just like a horror film, the reason why Estefania's parents called the police was because in their house they had a picture of their daughter, and supposedly this picture caught flames one day. It just fell to the ground and started smoldering, and her picture started burning in its frame. And they couldn't explain why it was happening, but they blamed it on these mass shadow figures that they were seeing all over their house, which Estefania used to say she would see these constantly before she died. So it seems that these shadow figures were tormenting their daughter, and then they decided, I guess we're staying here and tormenting their family. Haven't had enough fun, right? One notable thing that the police also wrote down when they did their investigation was the house was in disarray. They went into Estefania's room, which her parents left exactly the same as it was, but all of her things seemed to have been clawed by a three-clawed demon, and anyone who entered her room would get shoved by somebody that wasn't there. Also, while the police were investigating her house, they noticed this substance. It was a weird, sticky brown, almost blood-like substance that when they tried to get rid of, it kind of just spread, and they couldn't explain what it was. They weren't sure what it was. They thought it was some sort of paranormal something. I don't know if this is like Ghostbusters where it's ghost goo or plasma, but it was something that was worth noting down in their police report, which is a little odd. Like, you know, it's a year after her death. It's not like they're looking for blood. They already know she died at a hospital, but you're noting down like ectoplasm that you find on somebody's table that continues to spread no matter how many times you try and clean it off. So after Estefania passed away and her parents stayed in the house and the police investigated, after all that, they decided that they had had enough and they picked up and moved out. And ever since then, they have experienced no paranormal activity, and nobody who has moved into their apartment or place that they lived have experienced anything to themselves, any sort of paranormal activity for themselves either. I mean, in my opinion, I really feel like something went on here. And I don't want to say that everyone that gets possessed has like a psychological problem, because it doesn't seem to be like that for the most part. Like, yes, she was experiencing them, but you know, if it was like epilepsy or something like that, I feel like it would have come on earlier. Why was it only 6 months that this happened, but like the rest of her life nothing else happened? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I obviously don't know the cases for epilepsy, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't just happen one day out of the blue without any sort of falls, or, you know, like I just don't feel like it makes sense. And being in a household where everyone is like Spanish and usually over there for the most part, it's not like here where, you know, people kind of just put off the spiritual. A lot of people don't want to believe that this stuff exists. So if I tell you, oh, I was possessed, y'all are gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, you were possessed. Over there, a lot of people are like, oh, like it is a big deal. And for a religious family, I would assume, for people that are hanging crosses and stuff, I don't think that you would want to go and be like, yeah, our daughter's possessed. It's not something that you would even want to tell the cops. I know I wouldn't want to call a cop to my house to say that somebody I care about was possessed. I feel like they would laugh at me. And it was in 2017, so it's not like it was time ago where people would like be like, Regardless if it was like a possession or some sort of medical issue, something terrible happened to this girl. And oh God, like I hope nothing like that would ever happen to somebody that I care about, that they all of a sudden would be seeing these figures and these beings in their house as some sort of medical issue. Like, it's sleep paralysis in itself is terrifying, let alone if you are awake and you know you're awake and you're still seeing these things walk around your house. That's weird. But one of the most compelling things, not only that her parents said stuff, because obviously most of the time you're kind of like, the family, whatever, is that the cops backed up the story. The police that went and investigated this thing, like this stuff, saw it happen. And it was not just one, it was multiple cops. And they wrote it down in the report. Can you imagine that coming on your, like, the desk of the head of the police station being like, what is this? What? Like, that's not something I'd want to hand into my boss. So, police saying that they saw something, for me is like, that's good evidence. So it all comes down to, what do you guys believe? Do you believe that she was possessed by a spirit or a demon, or do you believe that it was a medical issue that just kind of happened all of a sudden and then took her life? Let me know what you guys think down below. Feel free to give me a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps the channel out so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.